When we start to rationalize our bad habits, this is how we know we are truly in bad health and we have truly fallen far from the ideal we are aspiring to. Now, if you find yourself in a position saying so often, I'll never do this again, and then the next day you find yourself doing it again and following the action with saying that, no, this time I'm done. You're starting a horrible, vicious cycle into getting to a point where you simply just give up. And then you will simply start to rationalize the fault. You will start coming up with reasons why it's not that bad, or why it's obvious that you give into it. Excuse me. It's obvious that you give into it, and no one can really fault you, at your age, at your at this point in your life. You can say so easily, well, obviously I have this problem. And is it really something I should try to suppress? And that's when the trouble starts, because then you're rationalizing your bad habit, a habit you should break, but you're struggling with so much. You you lose one good thing about your bad habit, and that's the shame. The shame you feel every time you give into it. Once that starts to happen, you're truly falling down a dark path that is it's hard to recover from. And I know I talked about this on the channel before, and I've talked about habits a lot. But habits, they make up our lives, so they are a very important thing to talk about. And the fact of the flame I talk about so often, where if you feed fuel to a bad habit, the flame is strengthened. I think so often we can convince ourselves that, okay, right now I just have to satisfy this urge, and then the urge will subside, and then I'll be good. I can stop thinking about it. I can combat. I'll be able to deal with it next time. I just right now is all I'm thinking about, and I just have to satisfy this urge so I can move on. And I think we all understand that this fuels the fire and doesn't make the habit easier to not give into next time, but actually harder. But we don't think we don't think about this when the situation arises, or even frankly, we don't care because the urge is just too strong, we believe, and all we can think about is getting rid of it, satisfying it. And we we even let ourselves, as we are trying to combat this and trying not to give into it, we let ourselves be drawn in to the pleasure. We start imagining, what it would be like to give into the pleasure, how good the pleasure feels, how nice it is, and how how good the whole experience will be. And then we never think about the aftermath, though. How quickly the pleasure fades, and how long the dishonor, the regret for giving in lasts. We don't think about that. We just think about the point in the giving into that, is obviously a pleasurable experience, but it is not an experience that we should be giving into. And for the reasons I just stated, it's the dishonor we are left with, the regret we are left with, the wishing that we have not spent so much of our time giving into those things. And the main point I wanted to make in this video is, the fire point where, don't feel your bad habits, because the flame just gets stronger. By feeling a bad habit, you are not getting any closer to killing the flame. You are only fueling it. In no place, in no exception, you know, it's strictly always fuel to the flame that is already too bright, that is already too hot. You don't need any more. And the other point I wanted to make too, and I think the awareness of this when it is happening is so valuable, is how we start rationalizing our bad habits. We start making the excuse that, you know, no one's going to hold us accountable for this habit. At this point in my life, at my age, at my situation, at everything, I'm not going to be, no one's going to sit there and hold me accountable for my actions. And it makes sense I'm having trouble with this. I already said all this, so I'll leave it at that. But that that is when we are in a poor state. And that is when, the second we have awareness of it, we really need to take charge and cut that flame. Because once the rationalization stops, you even lose, after a while, the realization and the understanding that this is a habit that you do not want to even have, that this is a habit that is diminishing you, not enlarging you, that this is a habit that is inhibiting you from becoming the best version of yourself. And after a while, you forget that. And it's just something you do. It's just something that is what it is. And subconsciously, you're probably trying to find like minded people who don't call you out, who don't hold you accountable, who don't have the opposite habit and remind you constantly of that which you could be. And then you're truly in a sorry state, and you need to get out ASAP, because not one more time, not one more week, not waiting for the new year, not anything of that nature, because it'll just fuel the fire. And if you think it's hard now, it's going to be even harder next time, and the time after that, and the time after that. So nip it in the butt ASAP. And, we truly have to fight our vices ruthlessly, because they are fighting us ruthlessly. And if we don't give everything we got to our vices and to stop bad habits, we will fail. We will begin to rationalize, and we will begin to be so far removed from that which we could be. So don't allow yourself to start rationalizing those bad habits. You told yourself so long ago you would quit, and now you tell yourself why they aren't even bad habits in the first place.